And we are back. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to MLW Vault. I'm your host, Balin Wiseup. It's so good to be back recording here. We are here with episode number 6, and you read the title, MLW March Madness. I'll get into that a little bit, but what I basically did is I took a wheel of a ton of different MLW role players. I put them into teams of 3 randomly, and we put them in a bracket in honor of March and the March Madness coming up very soon. The day I'm recording this is Selection Sunday. Super excited to see how this tournament shakes up. But yeah, that's what we're going to be doing today. We have, I think it's 36 overall players, and they're all in teams of 3. And then we're going to go through the entire tournament in single elimination to see which team in this kind of March Madness fantasy world that is the best MLW football team. So yeah, that is that. Before we do get started, though, we have a lot to talk about around the league, as some breaking news did come through, as we have an insight on an upcoming trade for the draft, and we have a new Great Lakes Gator manager. All of that, we'll talk about that next. But before we do get started, I am aware it has been a long time since the last episode. I think it was early mid-February, and now it is March. So it took me, I was originally going to do I was working on a big group episode that I was going to make with a ton of others, smaller MLW creators. If you know them, it would be ECK Sports, who's on YouTube, and then we have Mallards Broads, who's on Instagram, I think, and MLW Reviews as well. So I got kind of all them together. We were going to do a big group episode talking about MLW power rankings. Couldn't figure it out. I'm sure we'll try again in the future. So that is what I was kind of waiting on. I wanted this to be the new, wanted to be like the next episode, but since it didn't really work out, I kind of kept postponing it for a week to see if we would end up doing it, but didn't work out. So we're going to work on that a little bit later. I'm sure we'll get together at some point, maybe closer to the season, doing our full season predictions. But that was when we just worked on the power rankings. So maybe I might do a solo episode next on power rankings, but we'll see. That'll be a little bit later. So that is kind of the update on the group episode. We're still trying to work it out. We haven't talked in a little bit, but it has been said we did hop on a Zoom for a little bit. But I mean, it just overall didn't work out with kind of like timing and everything. So stay posted for that. I'm sure we'll do it at some point. But ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's jump into Around the League with some breaking news. All right. So if you remember, the biggest news of the offseason of this pretty much is kind of new year of MLW on January 1st. Very early in the year, it was said that Brennan Zerlag, manager of the Great Lakes Gators, was stepping down from his managerial point and will be requesting a trade. First time ever that a manager has stepped down himself and was involved in a deal that sent him to another team. So that deal happened on January 12th, I think, somewhere around that. And then just a couple of days ago, about 2 months later, they were managerless, but it's official that Chris Cheatham will, they said he has been stepped up as the Great Lakes Gator manager, which got some people talking, which is kind of like leads into this next thing here. As on the latest episode of the Pipe It Up podcast, Tommy Coughlin and Jack Agner talked about MLW mock trades that could happen right now, especially with the hot stove heating up with the draft coming up very soon. So they each did 6 deals, and it involved 9 total players. And at the end, right as the episode was closing out, Tommy Coughlin said, one of these players that was mentioned in today's episode is rumored to be traded in a multi-team deal in the upcoming draft. So that was a huge thing. So I kind of gathered all the players that they said, and how I'll go through a little bit of like mock trades for what I think. But the 9 players that was brought up in this episode that could be traded in the draft were Ryan Crouch, Blade Walker, Jacob Pishka, Caden Irwin, Brendan Davenport, Brendan Baranowski, Nick Saylor, Brendan Jorgensen, or Casey Bennett. So one of those 9 is said to have is going to be in a deal in the upcoming draft in a multi-team trade. So how that connects to Chris Cheatham. Everyone was saying that it's either going to be kind of co-managers or Brendan Jorgensen. So they think with Chris Cheatham stepping up as the new Great Lakes Gator manager, everyone believes that is going to then link to a Brennan Jorgensen trade. And he was brought up. His name was brought up in the Pipe It Up podcast. So I'm not saying it doesn't make sense, but I'll go through a little bit of my mock kind of trades out the top of my head here. So the official draft order for the upcoming draft is going to be in April. It is number one overall to the Wildcats, and that was like it was like the Gators pick that traded to the Magic, that then the Magic went to the Wildcats. So Western Wildcats get the first overall pick, followed by the Gators at 2, Wildcats again at number 3. Then we have Diamondbacks at 4, Predators at 5, and then the Mallards, Eagles, and Magic wrapping up the draft. And then in my mind, kind of the most trade-worthy picks in this whole draft order is the first one is the 3rd overall to the Wildcats. I think because they already have, the number 1 overall, we'll see what they can do with that 3. So that one in my mind is very tradable. Then I have the Mallards 6th overall, just because I feel like they have a very, very full team. I don't know if they could use another like player that shows up every single series and have 7 guys feels like a ton. So Mallards 6 overall is a trade worthy, and then just the 7th and 8th as the Eagles and Magic, as those kind of Mallards, Eagles, Magic are all 3 teams in my mind that are very full. Like they don't need new players. And also for the first time ever, a team can opt out of their draft pick, which I think that's a great rule for teams that are very full. So I think the Magic, in my mind, I believe they should opt out. I just don't. I mean, I think they could use a bat, but they just have a very full lineup. The Eagles should very much opt out. If the Mallards don't trade, I think they should opt out. It'll be interesting to see when the video comes out how that ultimately shapes up. But I'm gonna try to do some kind of live reaction to it. I don't know if that'll be like live streamed or just like recording it audio and then making an episode out of it. I don't know. We'll see. So those are kind of the most trade worthy picks in my mind: Wildcats, Eagles, and Magic and Mallards. So mock trades here. I did forget as I was making these mock trades. I did forget that it was um, a multi-team deal. So that those are always kind of more difficult to work out. But so the first one in my mind was Brennan Jorgensen gets traded to the Western Wildcats for that 3rd overall pick, just a straight up swap. I think that'd be pretty fair. I think the Gators need a draft pick super bad because I mean just getting Sawyer Bean is not gonna come with results for them. So, first one is Brennan Jorgensen to the Wildcats. I don't hate it at all. I think that could very much be super realistic. I think if there is a draft pick that's going to be dealt, it's going to be that 3rd one to the Wildcats. But then again, we've seen how useful these draft picks are. Is now for like 2 years in a row, we've seen a team go from worst to first. From the Mallards getting Robles, and then they're contenders every year, and then the Magic, of course, going from a 2-3 win season to winning the World Series. So in my mind, if I'm Kyle Schultz, I'm probably hanging on to that pick. Maybe looking for a deal for Nick Saylor. He's like been on a kind of decline, but we'll see. So Jorgensen to the Wildcats is my first one. Second up here, I have another Brennan Jorgensen trade. In this one, I have Jorgie going to the Midwest Mallards for that 6th overall pick. And then I have the Mallards throwing in Caden Irwin along with that 6th overall pick for Brennan Jorgensen. I think this is also pretty fair. um, I think with that lower pick, it makes sense for them to throw in a player. I don't think Caden Irwin is that guy for the Mallards. I think if they brought in Jorgie, that would make their team a lot better. Just to have a more reliable second arm, because I just don't think Caden Irwin's that guy for them. So Jorgensen would definitely supply that second arm. I know you can look at the numbers. I don't have them pulled up right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're pretty similar. But I mean, I just overall in my mind, if I'm taking, that's actually a good question. Like, if I need to start Caden Irwin or Brennan Jorgensen, I'm probably going Jorgie. Depends on the team we're playing. But anyway, that's my second one. And then my final one here is not involved with that. That is Nick Saylor gets traded to the Downtown Diamondbacks, as the Western Wildcats will get that 4th overall Diamondbacks pick. This one I think is a great trade, honestly, for both teams, because if so, that would mean the Wildcats could have the 1st, 3rd, and 4th overall. And they're also moving on with Nick Saylor. I think that relationship is getting a little bit stale. And I think the Diamondbacks could really use that that kind of veteran presence and kind of try to restore him to that restore him to what he can be, because we've seen Nick Saylor be one of the best hitters in the league. So like I said, I did forget about the multi-team aspect of it. I mean, if I could try to draw one up off the top of my head. If we go for that third overall pick, say maybe getting the Mallards involved with that third overall pick. Maybe the Wildcats trade the pick to the Gators, and then the Gators would get Caden Irwin, and then maybe the Wildcats would get Brendan Jorgensen. I mean, I guess I don't really know what I said, but I guess that kind of makes sense. So it'd be Brendan Jorgensen gets traded to the Wildcats overall. The Gators would get that third overall pick. Caden Irwin would go to the Gators. I'm lost. I don't know. We'll see. That's really hard to do off the top of my head, but I mean, the Mallards also have a pick. I think we could definitely see a swap between those Wildcats and Mallards picks. I think the Midwest Mallards need to make a huge trade. They're contenders, but they're not a World Series team in my mind yet. I think even if they got there, it wouldn't be a super close series depending on who they play. Can't put Jordan Robles as the answer to all your problems. He is good, but 2 years in a row now they've lost in the NLCS after not playing in the NLDS. So pretty interesting stuff. I'd love to hear what you guys think. The draft is coming up. It's normally, I think, early April, maybe late March, early April, and then we're even MLW 30 for 30. The Magic do not have a documentary yet, so we'll see if that does happen. We didn't get one last year because the D-backs already got one, and they're 2 days in September, which was pretty good, but yeah, we'll see. So pretty exciting stuff. And then opening day is going to be right around the corner. It's for baseball. It's in about 2 weeks. And then, it's when baseball comes around, it's about a month away. So pretty exciting stuff. So yeah, Chris Cheatham, new Great Lakes Gator manager. One of these 9 players is being traded. In my mind, it has to be Brendan Jorgensen. But I could see Caden Irwin and Nick Saylor also be thrown in. Maybe Blade Walker. I know Tommy. The Mallards are in pursuit of Jacob Pishka. I could see Casey Bennett. I don't know if there's a huge market for him. So, yeah, we'll see. All right. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's jump into MLW March Madness. It's next. Okay. So, we're going to see how this goes here. Like I said earlier, I took 32 MLW role players. I put them into a wheel, like a wheel spinner. I spun them and I made 12 teams of 3 players each. So, there's 36 total players, 12 total teams, and the bracket is just a 12 team, a single elimination, 3-game series to decide the winner, and 4 teams got buys. So we have 4 kind of round 1 matchups, and then those winners each have a round 2 matchup waiting for them. Once again, the buys were randomized, completely randomized. It might be pretty weird. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of matchups we get. And how we're going to determine the winner of these games it's a three-man team. So I'm really kind of looking at starting pitching for games, ideally games 1 and 3. I want a good backup pitcher. So I want bullpen depth, and then also I want good hitting to back it up. So we're going to kind of take those 3 things to grade it. So like who has a better ace, who has a better second arm, who has a better hitting, and maybe who has a better like clutch or superstar or whatever. So we'll see. All right. So I'm not going to run through all the teams just yet because we'll get there when it's their matchup. So here we go. Let's start it here in round 1. The first matchup we have, team 1 is Grant Miller, Brendan Jorgensen, and Caden Irwin versus Ryan Cratch, Daniel Schultz, and Jacob Pishka. Okay. All right. This one's right off the bat. This is pretty interesting. So if we take the superstars, we have Grant Miller and Ryan Cratch. For team 1, starting pitching is not, these are all kind of backup guys. So we have Grant Miller, Brennan Jorgensen, and Caden Irwin. Starting pitcher for that, I'm probably going with Jorgensen and then maybe Irwin to back it up. All 3 of those guys are kind of like bullpen kind of guys. And then for team 2, Ryan Cratch, Daniel Schultz, and Jacob Pishka. I think Cratch is the starting pitcher for that. So we're definitely giving them the point. Hitting wise, I mean, you got Grant Miller and Brendan Jorgensen, so that's pretty solid. But I mean, Cratch, Daniel Schultz, and Jacob Pishka, these are tough. We're not gonna look at hitting right now. Bullpen depth is probably team 1. So I mean, just because they could any 3 of those guys can go on the mound. But if Ryan Cratch is just pitching, I feel like you just can't dismiss a team of Cratch, Daniel Schultz, and Jacob Pishka because you got a starting pitcher, Schultz, I'm not giving up on Daniel Schultz pitching just yet. I think he can make a comeback. Then Pitchka is also a great swing. You're not scoring more runs in that team for sure. I think I'm gonna give the win to Ryan Crouch, Daniel Schultz, and Jacob Pitchka. Although I think Miller, Jorgensen, and Irwin would put up a fight. I think we take it 1-on-1. So we got Ryan Crouch versus Grant Miller. Give me Ryan. Brendan Jorgensen versus Daniel Schultz. I'll take Jorgie on that one. And then Caden Irwin to Jacob Pishka. I'm taking Jacob Pishka. So that's we're going to outroll that. So we're going Kyle Schultz. Ryan Crouch, Daniel Schultz, and Jacob Pishka advancing on to round 2. Here next up, Trey Flood, Blade Walker, and Chris Cheatham. Interesting team there, putting Trey Flood and Blade Walker on the same team. That's a doozy. And they are going up against Kyle Schultz, Preston Colm, and Gus. Okay, all right, interesting matchup here. Let's break it down. Starting pitching, definitely going with Trey Flood against Kyle Schultz. That one I'm probably going to give the edge to Kyle, I think. Yeah, I mean, it's Kyle. I think he needs to expand his arsenal a little bit more, learn a couple new pitches because everyone's kind of starting to know him. As I think it's kind of sad to say, but Kyle Schultz pitching days are. I would be surprised if he's still a pitcher in 4 years. I think he might kind of weed out slowly, but nonetheless, starting pitching definitely going Kyle Schultz here. Second arm for Blade Walker or Preston Colm. I think Colm. I have a prediction right now. I think Preston Colm is going to step up as the Mallard's second arm this season. But right now, I got to give it to Blade Walker. So it's 1-1 here, hitting wise. Kyle Schultz, Preston Coleman, Gus, or Chris Cheatham, Trey Flood. I'm going Kyle Schultz and Preston Coleman. That team is pretty solid. So that is 2-1 to Kyle's team. Star factor, definitely the GOAT, Kyle Schultz over Trey Flood. I think it is decided there. So Trey Flood, Blade Walker, and Chris Cheatham. That team is eliminated as Kyle Schultz, Preston Coleman, and Gus move on to round 2. Here we go. Third matchup moving right along. Jordan Robles, Jackson Pearson, and Sean Flynn. So that's a nasty team against Trevor Bonham, Liam Jackson, and Ty Smith. Okay. All right. Interesting. Kind of team purple there at the bottom. So top team, Robles, Pearson, Flynn. Jordan Robles can hit and pitch. Jackson Pearson got a second arm. This may be a near perfect team. Sean Flynn will get on base with the walks. Flynn's a little overrated hitter in my opinion, but can still kind of get the job done. Jordan Robles, that 1-2 punch of Robles and Pearson, I'd love to see in real life. That's pretty nasty. Let's kind of look at the second team here. Trevor Bonham, Liam Jackson, and Ty Smith. I think Bonham starting games 1 and 3. Robles is a better pitcher than that, I think. And then you don't really have a second arm. Liam Jackson and Ty Smith aren't a huge pitcher. I think Robles, Pearson, and Flynn definitely sweep that. That's an easy one in my opinion. Jordan Robles is a guy. That 1-2 punch of Robles and Pearson, that's pretty nasty. So they move on to round 2. Final matchup here of round number 1. First team, Drew Davis, AJ Ackerman, and Casey Bennett. Okay. All right. Okay. And they're facing up against Alec Warda, Landon Urgaitis, and Andy Durand. Okay. All right. Well, interesting matchup here. So, this is an interesting one. All right. Starting pitching. Their team 1 has got to go with Drew Davis. But whose game? Alec Warda can't pitch. Urgaitis, have we ever seen Landon Urgaitis on the mound? Wow, these are 2 not great teams here. And then Andy Durand, who strikes out 25 times a series. I think I gotta give it to the top team. I think offense-wise, team 2 definitely is better with Warda and Urgaitis, but I don't know. I don't think I can give them the win just because team 1 has a little bit more pitching from Drew Davis. AJ Ackerman can be clutch. Casey Bennett can get on base. Yeah. All right. Not by a lot. Definitely going to 3 games here, but I'm going the Drew Davis led interesting bunch here. So that is round 1. We got 4 more games of round 2 as it is now an 8-team tournament up to the championship round. Here we go. Round 2, first matchup. We have the Ryan Crouch, Daniel Schultz, Jacob Pishka team against Jimmy Norp, Nick Saylor, and Brennan Russell. Oh boy, here we go. All right, this is the first good matchup here. All right, Jimmy Norp versus Ryan Crouch. Starting pitching matchup, definitely Norp versus Crouch. I think 2 very, very good players. I think Ryan gets the edge, though. Not by a lot, but I think he does. I think he's a better pitcher, so we're going to give it to Ryan Cratch there. And then second arm, Nick Saylor. They definitely have a lot more pitching depth. The team one of Jimmy Norp and Nick Saylor, which could happen in real life. That's one of my mock trades. Saylor we saw on the mound in 2022. He pitched all right. So I'm going. He's their kind of game two guy. And then hitting wise, I still think it's Ryan Cratch, Daniel Schultz, and Jacob Pishka over Norp, Saylor, and Brennan Russell. But just because, Nick Saylor's not been great. Brennan Russell, if you put Brennan Russell in slate one, then he's tremendous. But other than that, pretty overrated bat. He has a good long ball, but man, I think I'm going to go with the upset here. Give me Ryan Cratch, Daniel Schultz, and Jacob Pishka. That team is solid. I think it's going to be tough for them to win the whole thing, though, just because they don't really have that second arm. But that'd be a very, very fun 3-game series. But I have Jimmy Norp, Nick Saylor, Brendan Russell kicking the curb here, getting a first round exit. All right. Next up here. Ooh, okay. Team one, Dallas Allen, Sawyer Bien, and Jonah Heath against Kyle Schultz, Preston Colm, and Gus. Kyle, Preston, and Gus got that win in round one. Starting pitching, Dallas Allen versus Kyle Schultz. Give me Dallas Allen. Game two, Sawyer Bien and Preston Colm. I'll probably, I got to go with Bien right now just because we haven't seen Preston Colm pitch yet. And then hitting wise, I think it's got to go with Dallas Allen, Sawyer Bien, and Jonah Heath over Kyle, Coleman, Gus. Yeah. All right. This one, in my mind, this might be a sweep of 2-game. That is a team to beat here. Dallas Allen, Sawyer Bien, and Jonah Heath moving on to the semifinal. All right. 2 more matchups here in round 2. The winner of these 2 games will meet in the other semifinal matchup before the championship round here of MLW March Madness. The next game is RJ Walgate, Brendan Baranowski, and Brendan Zerlag. Interesting team there against Jordan Robles, Jackson Pearson, and Sean Flynn. Okay, off the top of my head, Robles and Pearson are winning, but let's take a deeper dive into this. So, starting pitching matchup: RJ Walgate versus Jordan Robles. Oh boy. I'm I'm gonna give it to Robles right now. I understand Walgate was phenomenal, but I've seen more of Jordan Robles, and I've seen, what he has more than RJ Walgate's kind of one good rookie sensation year. So we're gonna go Robles with the edge on starting pitching. Second arm though, Brendan Baranowski and Jackson Pearson. If you look at the stats, Pearson had a far better season, but it's Baranowski. He's a Cy Young. He had one of the most dominant seasons of pitching seasons in MLW history. I'm going to give it to Baranowski. So that's kind of 1-1 here. We go hitting depth. Walgate's not a hitter. Brendan Baranowski's not a hitter. Zerleg is not a hitter. And definitely Jordan Robles and Jackson Pearson. That team, yeah, God, they have tremendous pitching of RJ Walgate and Brendan Baranowski, but their hitting is just not great. We're going to give the edge to Jordan Robles, Jackson Pearson, and Sean Flynn into the semifinals as they started all the way in round 1. Final round 2 matchup here. Ooh, we have a pipe it up team. Tommy Coughlin, Jack Agner, and Stephen McGlade against Drew Davis, AJ Ackerman, and Casey Bennett. All right, these are 2 not great teams. For team 1 of TC3, Agner and McGlade, starting pitchers, honestly, Stephen McGlade. Their number 2 arm is nowhere. So that team's pitching is really not great. And then you have Drew Davis versus Stephen McGlade. I guess Davis gets the no. I'm taking Stephen McGlade over Drew Davis as a pitching start. I think Drew Davis could step up as a better pitcher in the league, but I'm definitely going with McGlade here. Hitting depth, it's definitely Tommy definitely carries both teams, honestly. And then we've seen good flashes from Jack Agner. So I'm going to go hitting to the Tommy team. And then Oh God, these are just two not great teams. So starting pitcher McGlade Davis, we're gonna go Stephen McGlade. Our second arm is nobody. I mean, we're gonna have to see a pitching performance by AJ Ackerman or Casey Bennett or Tommy Coughlin or Jack Agner. So I mean, it really kind of comes down to hitting, and we're gonna go with TC3 as he is kind of that whole team, but that team might. I don't know if they're making it to the next round. So here we go. Semifinals. 4 teams remain. The final 4 of MLW March Madness here. First matchup bracket at the top here. We got 2 heavy hitter teams. Ryan Kratch, Daniel Schultz, and Jacob Pishka have made it all the way from round 1 here into the final 4. And they are facing off against Dallas Allen, Sawyer Bien, and Jonah Heath. 2 great teams. Let's take a good little time to dissect this matchup here. Starting pitching. Ryan Kratch versus Dallas Allen. Ooh, geez. Again, stats-wise, Dallas Allen was better last year, but it is Ryan Kratch. If I'm a manager, I'm honestly probably going to start Dallas Allen over Ryan. Oh, jeez, I don't know about that. Very, very close. It'll come down to the offense is whoever wins that. So, all right, we're gonna give that a tie right now between Ryan Kratch and Dallas Allen, though. I hope you guys understand with me. You don't hate me taking Dallas over Ryan. Um, Second arm, Sawyer Bien and Daniel Schultz. Probably Sawyer Bien. Actually, definitely. We didn't see Daniel Schultz pitch a ton last season, so that goes to the bottom team. Then hitting depth. Um, it's definitely the top team. Ryan Kratch, Daniel Schultz, and Jacob Pishka, 3 great players. That's going to go them to the hitting depth. So this comes down to the starting pitching matchup. It is 1-1 here with the starting pitching being a tie. So it's going to come down to Ryan Kratch and Dallas Allen here. Here, hold on. I am going to pull up the stats here for both of these pitchers. We're going to kind of look at their kind of career stats. We're going to look at their season from last year. Okay, here we go. Home. If you have not gone to the MLW website, it's not the most like updated, but it's still here. So all right. Pacific Predators, Ryan Kratch. Let's see. On pitching, he started 9 games, pitched 33 innings, had a 5-4 record, with a 1 ERA flat, 1.52 WHIP, super solid there, 84 strikeouts, which is unbelievable. Then if we go over to the Eastern Eagles, Dallas Allen had 23, so 10 less innings pitched, 5-2 record. So Kratch had 2 more losses. Strikeouts 51. So look at his WHIP, 1.65 and a 1.04 ERA. So very, very similar ERAs between the two. Kratch did throw 10 more innings, though. That is almost 3 more games. And I think the win-loss ratio is you can't really look at that, especially for wiffle ball and how like this league runs with how there's only 3 teams or 3 inning games where kind of the win-loss record for pitching isn't that valuable because they like those rely so much on the offense with like a win-loss and like a pitching record. So really kind of want to look at ERA and WHIP and innings pitched. Ryan Kratch had a lot more strikeouts. Kratch had a lower ERA and a lower WHIP. Not by a lot, but having 10 more innings pitched with Dallas Allen having more than that. Going to give the edge to Ryan Kratch, Daniel Schultz, and Jacob Pishka going into the championship game. Their second arm still kind of, that's a beatable team. That's a very beatable team. We'll see here. The other Final Four matchup, we got Jordan Robles, we got Jackson Pearson and Sean Flynn. Great team there against Tommy Coughlin, Jack Agner, and Stephen McGlade. I'm going to go with Jordan Robles and Jackson Pearson. Disgusting duo there. They have better offense. They have better pitching. That is a 2-0 sweep to Jackson Pearson and Jordan Robles and Sean Flynn as the championship game of MLW March Madness 3-on-3 tournament, we have Ryan Cratch, Daniel Schultz, and Jacob Pishka against Jordan Robles, Jackson Pearson, and Sean Flynn. Oh, this is, I don't know who's going to, okay. All right, here we go. So, pitching, we gotta take a deep dive into this one as well. So, we looked at what we saw from Cratch. Let's look at Robles on the mound. Jordan Robles on the mound last season pitched 29.2 innings. So very similar innings pitched. Robles went 8-1, 1.52 ERA, so a significantly higher ERA, and a similar WHIP. So I mean that win-loss record is very glaringly different. Strikeouts, Ryan Cratch has a lot more. Robles did have a better season. Even if we look at 2022 for Robles in his rookie year, with the Mallards, I'm pulling it up. Jordan Robles he pitched 30 innings that year, had a 9-4 record, 201. Okay, had a high ERA, 2.27 ERA. Didn't really see that coming, and a 2.01 WHIP. So starting pitching, I'm gonna give the edge to Ryan Cratch and that team, but I think they probably split those games with kind of one win going to Ryan and one win going to Robles. So with that said, that means this matchup is really going to come down to that game 2 pitching matchup, because if Cratch wins one and Robles wins one, that means it's kind of down to Daniel Schultz and Jackson Pearson. Now, Daniel Schultz, worst pitching year of his career. Well, okay, of the modern era of MLW, from like the Meadows era of 2018. Daniel had the worst pitching year of his career without a doubt, hands down. He didn't start a game in the World Series for the Eagles. He didn't start a game. Blade Walker started a game over Daniel Schultz. And then you have Jackson Pearson, who is coming off of his first season as a pitcher in the Wildcats. That's his first year in the league as he is known as a pitcher. And numbers wise, he had a better season and he pitched a lot more innings than Daniel Schultz did. So we're going to come back to that game 2. If we go to offense wise here, Cratch, Schultz, and Pishka. That's disgusting. I think you have to, I don't know if that offense can be beat. But then you have Jordan Robles, who was incredible, Jackson Pearson, who was great, and then Sean Flynn. So we know what we're getting from Robles here. Let's look at 2023. Let's look at Jackson Pearson's hitting stats here. Pearson on offense had a 171 average, so not great. Had 6 hits on the year, 23 strikeouts. OPS for Jackson Pearson was a 929, so very, very solid OPS. On base was a 500, so he drew a ton of walks as well. Yeah, 23 walks to 23 strikeouts. So he kind of swing for the fences guy. Hit 3 home runs. 3 of his 6 hits were home runs, hence the high OPS. So a home run hitter, but with that definitely comes a high strikeout rate as well. So you see that. Pearson, all right. If we look at Sean Flynn's hitting on the Cobras this year, 194 average. He had a plus 1,000 OPS, a 1,045 OPS with a 561 on base. That's a huge part. He had 26 walks to 22 strikeouts, 6 hits as well. Yeah, 194. So a plus 1,000 OPS. So Sean Flynn and Jackson Pearson, Jordan Robles. That's a nasty team. I feel like that's a team that's either going to be very hot or very cold, as they can either, you either strike out or you hit a home run. So if we look at the other team, we know what we're getting from Ryan Cratch. Let's look at Daniel Schultz hitting on the other team. Daniel Schultz had a 250 average, getting up there, a 720 OPS though, kind of average on base at 345, so 345 on base, and then a 375 slug. So not crazy. 2 home runs. strikeouts was 24 to only 7 walks. So Schultz a little underwhelming. And then, I mean, if you look at his pitching stats, Daniel Schultz ERA was a 50. Jeez, it finished with a 15.45 and a 7.73 whip. 7 whip is just that's just not Daniel Schultz. 10 strikeouts. He didn't even go to 5 innings. So man, this is a tough one here. Pishko, we know what we're getting. Super solid guy. When he gets a full 15 games, it'll be super interesting to see what Jacob Pishka does. Man, all right. The winner of MLW March Madness, I don't know why he said that, is going to be, I think we're going to go with Jordan Robles, Jackson Pearson, and Sean Flynn. The natty winner. This team they have it all. They have great hitting. They have 2 players with a super high OPS in Jackson Pearson and Sean Flynn. And then, of course, Jordan Robles, a star on offense and defense. They have a number 2 arm. This team and this world is a near perfect team. So your MLW March Madness champions, Jordan Robles, Jackson Pearson, and Sean Flynn. There we go. You have it right there, ladies and gentlemen. That was MLW March Madness. I hope you enjoyed. Kind of a little unique idea here. We will try to get back into the swing of things, though, for MLW Vault. I'll probably do a couple kind of episodes focusing on one team at a time, similar like I did to the Gators, because I definitely want to talk about the Mallards and Preds are the team at the top of my mind. And then maybe after the draft, we can talk about the Wildcats, see if they're going to be true contenders, if they have World Series hopes in 2024, see what Kyle's role will be with that team. So a lot of stuff to talk about here in MLW. I'll do something with the draft, whether it's a live stream on YouTube reacting to it or kind of recording myself reacting to it and then putting it in an episode. We will see all of that in the coming weeks. Be sure to stay tuned if we have a documentary coming out. There hasn't been a ton of talk around that. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, going to wrap it up for MLW Vault, episode number 6. Thank you so much for tuning back in. We're back, and I'll see you next time. Peace.